In today's video, I'm going to teach you how to paint this simple and easy to do blue nebula surrounded by clusters of stars. This is a perfect painting tutorial for any beginner out there. Let's go. For this nebula, we're going to use golden fluid acrylics. The colors will be titanium white, carbon black, Prussian blue, primary cyan, magnesium blue hue, and teal. Of course, I've done you a favor and I've put all the paints, colors, and supplies down in the video description below. Let's start by prepping our canvas correctly. If you want that deep, dark, rich, deep space color, then you're going to want to prep your canvas with carbon black. Normally, I'd recommend that you use black gesso, but using carbon black, which is going to be our base black color, is going to be easier to blend in our colors, but also way easier to correct mistakes, which is perfect for beginners. Let's go ahead and move on to our base color, which is our Prussian blue. Right out of the tube, just squirt some paint on your canvas in the general shape that you want the crackle of your nebula to go. The more paint you add here, the bigger the bloom will be on your nebula. If you don't want a big bloom, then just add a little less paint at this step. When you got the amount of paint that you personally like, I recommend grabbing a paintbrush that you have the most control with. For me, it's a smaller round brush or a smaller flat brush. We're going to push the paint around in the direction that we want our nebula and nebula crackle to be. We're not necessarily blending colors here, so don't push that Prussian blue all across your canvas. Remember, we want a deep, dark, rich black, but we also want a deep, dark, rich Prussian blue. So slowly start pushing the color out in different directions. Think about spider webbing or different crackles in directions that you can take that paintbrush and that blue color here. Now we get to add our midtones, which are gonna be our blue colors, which is primary cyan and magnesium blue hue. Alternate between the two of these depending on where you want the color to be. To be honest, they're kind of the same color, but one's a little bit darker and richer than the other, and one has a little more vibrancy to it, which really adds to depth. But if you only have one mid-tone blue color, you'll be perfectly fine. We're going to add this in the center of our Prussian blue and start to push that color, the mid-tone color that is, out into the Prussian blue, but don't completely cover it. Remember, when it comes to nebulas, there are a multitude of different colors that play on top and within each other. That's going to get you beautiful effects down the road when we add our crackle. Now, if your blue got away from you, the nice thing about this simple nebula is you can easily correct and cover up your mistakes by just adding more carbon black on top of the parts you don't like, or if you over blended or pulled your blue in spots you don't want, just cover it up with that carbon black and it'll be gone just like that. Now we can move on to the outline of the crackle, which is actually technically more like an inline. With a smaller brush, perhaps a script liner or a very small round brush, dip it into that teal and start following along the line that you want your crackle to be. Now it's very important here that you don't overdo it with paint. Start with a little bit of paint and add a little bit more as you start to see where you want your crackle concentration to be. Now that we have our crackle line in place, all we have to do is blend in that crackle line with our mid-tone blues to make some real awesome effects happen. I recommend using any smaller brush that you have control with. A small flat or a small round, or in my case right here, a nice script liner brush works great for blending and pushing that crackle line into the midtones of the blue. If you accidentally push away too much of that teal crackle line, don't be afraid to go back and add more teal to bring it back or add it in new places. Now that you've pushed some color around, things will start to come more to the foreground and you'll be able to see more of your nebula and more of your crackle. One of the best and one of the easiest ways to get beautiful color transitions is to just lightly blend the edges. And that's what we want to do with our teal color going into our different mid-tone blues. Lightly take a smaller brush and pull down in the direction you want your crackle to go, but only make sure to touch the edges of the teal crackle. This will transition from beautiful specular highlights down into midtones, and as you pull it even further, into contrasting deeper shadows that fade off into that carbon black. Spend some time here and pull the colors in the direction that you think will best emphasize your nebula. By now, your nebula should be taking some shape and form, and if you're like me, you've probably made a couple mistakes, and this is the perfect time to go ahead and correct those. If you have any blue or teal that went beyond your nebula, just simply paint over it with that carbon black. Likewise, if you took your blue too far or your teal too far and it's going outside the actual shape of what you want your nebula to be, you can go back and reshape your nebula with that carbon black. Just go close to those edges and pull that carbon black out into our deep space color so it fades naturally. When this dries, you won't notice any patchiness or corrected spots. It'll look nice and fluid and perfect throughout. With a mixture of titanium white and a little bit of water to get a nice liquid white buildup on a paintbrush, we can flick the base of the paintbrush to make the paint fall right on top of our canvas, creating the illusion of different star clusters. I recommend start with a light tap so you have some very light stars, pull back, look at what you have, and then start to add stars in positions that you want. The closer to your canvas you are, the tighter the cluster of stars will be. Alright, time to make our nebula really stand out and be something truly spectacular. And to achieve this, we're going to add specular highlights, or for some of you, this basically is going to be the light source that is cascading out from the center of our crackle. To achieve this, all we need to use is pure titanium white and any small paintbrush that you have control with. I personally recommend using any small round brush or a script liner brush. Now, wherever you think the brightest part of your crackle is, add some titanium white and slowly pull down either the spider webbing of your nebula or the crackle of your nebula. Make sure you fade it into those teals and blue colors to have a beautiful transition, but try to keep your white pure white and try your best to have contrast between certain parts of your nebula. This is what's really going to make it stand out. A great artist note when it comes to the specular highlights of the nebula is don't overdo it. When you have just a few, you're creating a focal point and it's really going to make your nebula stand out from all the other ones out there. Another artist note that I would love to give is, for me personally, yes, it's okay to paint over your stars when it comes to your nebula, because I don't want to have anything distracting from my nebula center, because I want that to be my focal point. If you want to make certain parts of your nebula look more distant, you can use a clean, dry fan brush to soften up the edges of the nebula or go over some of the stars lightly. This will help dissipate them into the background, giving them a nice aura glow. Now all you have to do is allow your awesome nebula painting to completely dry. This will give the colors time to truly shine and pop and give you those beautiful, vibrant and saturated colors you are looking for. Plus, when it completely dries, it'll even out all the colors, including the black, and it'll be one beautiful, nice, smooth painting. Now that our painting's all dry, let's take a look at the final result. You can see our nebula has this beautiful spider webbing and crackling and blooming effects going on with all the different blue colors that we used. It's emphasized even more by the specular highlights with the titanium white inlay, making really strong focal points. And no nebula is complete with a few stars dancing around it on this beautiful, deep, dark, rich space background. And for good measure, let's take this nebula and mock it up on some images so you can truly appreciate it. I just want to say, if you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching, and I want to give a special shout out to my buddy TallyWho Art, who helped me with the video and the painting. You can find links to his social down in the video description, and while you're down there, you can also find links to my starter oil painting packet, plus my upcoming book. If you love nebulas in space, then I recommend you take a look at the videos over to my side, where you can see a few more nebulas that we did with different colors and different styles. I'll catch you in those videos, and as always, happy painting, and of course, peace.